Hey everyone, great to be with you here again. Hope that you guys are doing okay in the midst of the isolation and all that's going on these days. Just want to share a verse and a few thoughts just as an encouragement to you today. The verses that I want to share might be pretty familiar to you. They come from Jeremiah 29, starting in verse 11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me, and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." These are verses that so often we quote and talk about just to be assured of the fact that God has plans for our lives, that He has something in mind for us that's good and to give us hope and a future. What we sometimes miss, though, I think, is the context that we find these verses in. These verses are actually found in a letter that God gives to His people, Israel, as they're going off into exile in Babylon. They're going to be in exile, He says, for 70 years. This is not a short-term thing. They're getting pulled away from their homes. They're getting pulled away from the land that they've known, getting pulled away from everything familiar. And they're going to be heading to Babylon for 70 years of exile. But God says, in the midst of that, I want you to know that I actually still am watching over you. I have plans for you. I'm not leaving you there forever. This will come to an end. And I think for us today too, as we think about what's going on in this season, we need to understand this season will come to an end, but we could be in it for a while. We don't know how long it's going to be. There is a lot of uncertainty around that. But what we also can know is that God gives us hope in the midst of this. And He also gives us a calling in the midst of this. To His people, He called them to pray for the prosperity of the city in which they found themselves during exile, to pray for the leaders, to pray blessing over the city that they were in, to work for the good of the places where they were. And I think for us too, that is our calling in the midst of this. We may struggle with some of the emotional ups and downs of this season. We may struggle with the uncertainty of not knowing when it ends, but we can still be praying for our city. We can be reaching out in love to those around us in our neighborhoods. We can be praying for our leaders, and we can trust that God is going to bring us out of this for good. So church, stay encouraged today. Continue on in the paths that God's leading us in, and as He prompts you to reach out and care for those around you, go for it. Continue to be the church. Know that I'm here praying for you, cheering you on. Let's just see what God will do in this unprecedented but also incredible season.